This is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you, I think I'm right. Welcome in. We are live here on this Wednesday afternoon. Appreciate you guys spending some time with me here, Mark Zinno, on A to Z, and all of us here at Locked On Sports Atlanta. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Of course, I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. My good buddy John Michaels will stop by the show here in a little more than 10 minutes as we'll recap everything going on in Atlanta sports with him. Plus, we'll get into the Braves and being swept yesterday in the doubleheader with the New York Mets. But I wanted to start today with Desmond Ridder again and the position of quarterback and where we are, because I came across some really interesting information courtesy of Warren Sharp, who, if you don't follow him at Sharp Football, he's an analytics guy. He does amazing work. He is so in tune with what goes on in the world of football, not only from an analytics standpoint, but just sort of observations and things of that nature. So with this past week coming of teams having to decide what they're doing with the fifth-year option on certain players or their first-round picks, rather, he posted a summary of fifth-year options picks by team and positions and their 2022 decisions. So all these people were drafted in 2019, and they have to make a decision after 3 full seasons, 2019, 2020, 2021, if they're going to pick up the fifth-year option. Now, according to the new CBA, and just for some clarification and some context, it used to be you could make that decision and you could still cut them and not have to pay their salary, on their fifth-year option. Now it can't. Now you can't. Once you pick it up, it is all going against the cap. It all counts. There's no way out of it. So you sort of had like a loophole. Yeah, you had to decide to pick up the option. And it used to be for injury that if somebody got hurt, you couldn't cut them. They would still get paid their money. Now it's you get paid no matter what. So the Falcons passed on Caleb McGarry on his fifth-year option, but picked up that for Chris Lindstrom. And so when Warren Sharp did this and put all these together, you look at the numbers. And what stood out to me the most was the percentage of quarterbacks whose fifth-year option was picked up. If I were to ask you, of first-round quarterbacks selected, what the percentage would be of fifth-year options that were picked up, my guess is, because this is what I thought, is that number would be above 70, 75, maybe even 80%. 4 out of every 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round got their fifth-year option picked up. Why? It's part of the reason why you drafted a quarterback in the first round, was to have that extra year of control, because when building your teams, a cheap young quarterback was the way to win. That's how you did it. The Seahawks did it with Russell Wilson. The Ravens did it with Joe Flacco, right? We saw the Niners build a championship caliber team with Colin Kaepernick on a rookie deal. The first $20 million quarterback that had a cap hit of $20 million or higher to win a Super Bowl was Tom Brady when he did it over the Atlanta Falcons. It's hard to make a complete football team when you're paying your quarterback $25, $30 million a year, and that number hits the cap, and you've only got, 81%, 82% of your cap left for 52 other players. It's really, really tough. So that's what I thought. Well, I was wrong. I thought it would be around 70, 75, maybe even 80%. I was wrong. It is just 57% of first-round quarterbacks since 2011 that have been on the team for the fifth year, have had their fifth-year option picked up. And I bring all this to light, and I say all this because there is a transition happening in the NFL, and I've spoken about it, and we've seen it, and it speaks to something that I've said forever. When you make a bad business deal, the only thing you can do that's worse is hang on to a bad business deal. The minute you know the deal is bad, cut bait, get out, start over. And that's why I say the Falcons' sole responsibility in 2022 is to figure out if Desmond Ridder can play. Now, I say that because, again, you could be drafting a quarterback next year. I know it's not the same because he was a third-round draft pick. There's no pressure. They can afford to wait, blah, 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 blah. No. When it comes to quarterbacks, they are different. And whether they have a fifth-year option or not, figuring out whether they can play is the first and foremost priority. If Desmond Ridder can't play, you have to go get another one because Marcus Mariota isn't a long-term solution. He's not the quarterback of your future. So you have to figure out if Desmond Ridder can play. And if teams are willing to dump first-round quarterbacks 43% of the time, almost half the time, they're willing to dump a first-round quarterback's fifth year. And all of these are recent dudes who haven't had their fifth-year option picked up, including Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen didn't even get an option. Remember that draft class? I mean, if teams are willing to move off first-round quarterbacks when they have an extra year of cheap control, you should easily be able to move off a third-round quarterback. There is no reason to hang on to Desmond Ridder any reason longer than absolutely other than the fact that he can play and he gives you a chance to win. Don't talk to me about value. Don't talk to me about where he was drafted. Don't talk to me about, we can give him time. No. I'll go back to what I've said repeatedly. When you are in a rebuild, step one, and the most important step is solidifying the quarterback position. If you don't do that, you will be rebuilding perpetually. And this team is on the fringe of rebuilding perpetually if they can't figure out the quarterback position. Guys, this is just how it goes. This is literally life in the NFL. If teams can move off of first-round quarterbacks, there's no reason the Falcons shouldn't be able to move off a third-round quarterback if you find out he can't play. If you don't know if he can play, you have no choice but to hold on to him. Now, that doesn't necessarily preclude them from drafting somebody if they're bad enough this year and still keeping Desmond Ridder as a backup. But you have to be willing to move off that decision. You have to be willing to turn around and go, this isn't our guy, or this guy is decidedly better based off of what we saw pre-draft on Desmond Ridder and what we see pre-draft based off of X, whether it's CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, whoever it may be, whoever's available to you. We think this guy is better right now than this guy was, than Desmond Ridder is, then you can go draft him. And I'm fine with you doing that. And everybody else should be too. You don't owe Desmond Ridder a chance. The organization owes itself the ability to figure out if they made the right decision. And if they didn't, move off of it immediately. Don't wait. That's how simple and cold the NFL business needs to be. You don't have to overthink it. And if you do, that's all you're going to be doing is overthinking. And it's a bad way to do business. If you can get rid of nearly half of the first-round quarterbacks, you should not be afraid to move off of Desmond Ridder if he can't play. But you got to figure it out. That's why it's their number one priority. Let the kid play. Start Marcus Mariota. Give him a couple of weeks. As soon as you hit that bye week, bam. It's Ridder's turn the rest of the way. That's it. Go see if the kid can play. It's the only job you have in 2022, Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot. Find out if he can play. All right, coming up next, John Michaels, my good friend from the locker room on 680 The Fan, will join us. We'll go over the Falcons. We'll talk a little bit of Braves, even some NBA playoffs. That's all coming up next right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you search Locked On Sports Atlanta. We'll be right back.